Hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my Savory Adventures. This time I'm going live, so very excited for that. And just want to say thank you for being here and taking time out of your busy Saturday. So before we get started, so this is today's episode is actually part 2. With collaboration from my friend Kellie from Garden to Table Bliss, and she was blessed with some green thumbs. That girl can garden like no other, and she has a YouTube channel called Garden to Table Bliss. So in part 1, she gave me a tour of her garden and showed me how to make eggplant. And if you missed it, hop on over to her channel, or I'll include it in the link below so you can catch up. But just a quick recap. So she showed me how to take these itty bitty eggplant seeds and make them into these lush, beautiful purple vegetables. I just find that incredible. And she gave me a lot of tips on how you grow the perfect eggplant. And one of them was that you know when it's ripe by doing what's called a finger test. So you just take your thumb, push it, and if it rebounds quickly, then it's ready to be plucked. Oh my God, she would kill me if I said that. The correct terminology is actually harvested. So we'll go with that. So I'll just do it one more time so you can see. Yep, bounces back pretty fast. So pretty cool. So today in part 2, I am actually going to be making a northern Indian dish called Eggplant Bharta. And it's basically charred eggplant that's smashed and cooked with onions, garlic, ginger, tomatoes, and Indian spices. So it has a lot of flavor. But for those of you who don't know and may be wondering, what does this white girl know about Indian food? Well, my husband Gary is from India, and we go to visit about once a year, and he lives in Delhi. So when we go there, Eggplant Bharta, Baingan Bharta is what its official name is on the table 3 to 4 times out of the week. And it's one of the more the most often dishes of the Indian dishes that I make. So you are in good hands. Don't worry, got you covered. But have you ever, so why is it called Baingan Bharta? Let's start with that. So Baingan, interestingly enough, translated to Hindi means eggplant, and Bharta translates to basically mashed vegetables. So now it all makes sense. So let's get started. Now, the first step is to take the eggplant and char it, usually over an open flame. And for us, that means charring it over the gas range of the stove. I've done that before, and that gets pretty darn messy. I mean, I know cooking is messy, but that just takes it to a whole nother level. So what I do instead is I take it and roast it in the oven. And basically, why do you char the eggplant? Is to give it that smoky characteristic flavor that's very popular in Eggplant Bharta. I mean, that's what makes Baingan Bharta. I go back and forth and use Eggplant Bharta and Baingan Bharta interchangeably. So that's why you can call it either name. But Baingan Bharta, it has that smoky flavor, and that's what it's really known for. But I find it just by roasting it in the oven that it still deepens the flavor. So I'm going to show you how I do that. Okay. So, and just bear with me. This is my first time, so I'll keep moving the computer around. Okay. cubes. Okay, so this is the eggplant. So what you're gonna typically do is you're gonna slice it about 3/4 down the middle, deep, and then just make some slits on either side. Okay, and then you're just gonna take a little bit of olive oil and you're gonna pour it over. Or brush it, whatever is easiest, and just rub it all over. And there's no need for salt, no need for pepper. And then you're just gonna line a baking sheet with parchment paper. And then you're gonna roast it at 425 degrees for about 30 to 45 minutes. It just depends on the size of the eggplant. So with these, the size of these took about more closer to 45 minutes. However, I already did that because I don't think you want to sit here with me for 45 minutes while the eggplant roasts. So let me just show you. That is the roasted eggplant. So you want to make sure it's wrinkly, it's juicy. I mean, juices are just dripping down, and it's mushy. Okay, so that's the texture we're going for. Now, the great thing is while your eggplant roasts, you can go ahead and prep all your ingredients. I mean, that's what takes the longest in no matter what Indian dish you cook. There's so much chopping of garlic, ginger, onions, tomatoes, you know. Indian food is very intimidating when you don't grow up in it, you know, and it can take a long time. So by the time it's done roasting, you should have all your ingredients prepped. Now, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. Hold on. So remember that smokiness flavor that we want? Since I don't char it with an open flame, I use smoked paprika. I mean, genius. I find that with the combination of roasting them and using smoked paprika, you get that smoky flavor. But shh, don't tell anybody that. Okay, now, so once you do, I forgot to mention, so once you do have your eggplant fully roasted, you're going to peel it. And then mash the guts of the eggplant and set that aside. Oh, Allison, welcome. Okay, so just to catch you up, we're going to be making an Indian dish called Eggplant Bharta, and because you are vegan, this dish is perfect for you. Okay, so now before we go any further, since we're talking about smoked paprika, I want to talk about Indian spices because there's a lot of them and they can be very intimidating. And each dish uses a different kind of blend of different spices. I mean, you could have two households and they're making the same dish. However, they use different spices, different masala mixes. So it can be very complicated, and especially when Gary's aunts would teach me, they'd be like, oh, you just add a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and not measuring anything. And it's like, wait, slow down. But over the years, I think I've grasped a little bit of a handle on it. Okay, so now, Allison, since you're here, what would you say is the most common Indian spice that most households would have in their spice cabinet? Do you have a guess? Yes, so that would be curry powder, which looks like this, and a lot of you have probably had it before, and it's the most common. However, you will not find this in any Indian household. Interesting fact, this was actually made for the Britishers, and it's made of more mild spices such as cumin, and now I'm going blank. But it's basically just milder in flavor, okay? Made for the Britishers' taste so they could take it back home, and that's why they have so many curry dishes. But what you will find in an Indian household is what's called a spice daba, okay? Now, or a masala box, and masala just means a blend of different spices. Hey Ram, what's up? Thank you for joining. So in every Indian household, this is what you'll see. Here, let me tilt it down for you guys, okay? So in here, you're obviously gonna find turmeric, maybe mustard seeds, chili powder. So here, maybe I can just, whole cumin seeds, ground coriander, and what's called a gram masala. So gram masala is the most like spice blend that you'll find that's similar to curry powder, but it's more richer in flavor. It's made more with warm spices like nutmeg, cinnamon, chilies, so it tends to be a little bit spicier too. Okay, so for today's dish, we're actually going to be using, let's see here, if I can just show you. So we're going to be using cumin seeds, garam masala, and a little bit of ground coriander, okay? And that's it. Now, some people add a little bit of turmeric also, or chili powder, but in Eggplant Bharta, we're gonna be using serrano peppers for its spice. So, and two, you don't wanna add too many spices to the dish because you really want the eggplant, the smokiness to stick out. Okay, so let's get started. So I showed you about the trick roasting the eggplant, and you want it to look like this after roasting it in the oven. So we're going to go ahead and peel it. Okay, so there it is. Now, Ram and Ali, have you guys had Eggplant Bharta before? I mean, it's one of my favorite dishes. And when we go to an Indian restaurant, we'll order this as well. Even though I do make it at home a lot, but when you don't feel like cooking Indian food, you go to a restaurant. But I'd have to argue mine is better than a restaurant, right? Like any home-cooked food. So the peel should just come off pretty easily. And when it comes out of the oven, you want it to let it rest so it's cool enough to handle. You don't want to burn your fingers. And you could even put it in a Ziploc bag and just let it steam, and it'll be even easier to peel. So this dish, we're using 2 large eggplants. Okay. Ta-da! And so I already peeled the other one, so we're just going to add it to that. So that's just what it looks like, and then I'm just going to add the rest in there. And you just want to smash it in. And make sure you get all the peel out. If some is in there, it's not the end of the world. Okay. And then, ta-da! So that's what it looks like, and that is our main ingredient. Okay. So, like I said, a lot of Indian cooking involves a lot of prep work. Now, so onions. This is also probably, besides the eggplant, the second most important ingredient of this dish. Now, Indians' base of cooking, they use onions like it's garlic. It's in everything. A lot of recipes will call for 2 onions, but like I learned from my aunt, Chachi G, she recommends using more onions because that's really where also the flavor comes from. So I'm going to go ahead and use 3 onions. And generally, the purple onions are the more popular, but I only had 2. And so I had to use 1 yellow onion. Again, not the end of the world. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and just chop the final onion. Now, the thing with when you cut an onion, the trick is just to cut it as fast as you can so you don't cry waterfalls. Okay, so that's basically it. Okay, so our onions are prepped. Now, the next ingredient we need to do is our tomatoes. Now, this is a trick I learned from one of the servants back in India, is because generally you can just chop a tomato, but my husband Gary doesn't like the skin of the tomatoes because it sometimes comes off and the texture can be slimy. So what I saw the servants do one day, you just cut, oops, let me show you. You just obviously cut the tomato and take the tomato and you grate it. And then basically you just get the pulp and not the skin of the tomato. So Allie and Ram, what is your guys' favorite Indian dish? And Christy, if Christy is also watching with you, Ram. Well, I haven't seen their answer yet, but I'll let you guys know when they type it in the chat room. I think one of my favorite Indian dishes besides Baingan Bharta is butter chicken, tandoori chicken. I also like Malai chicken. And of course, anything that's tandoori with lamb and fish is really good. Okay, so Ram said, oh, so Christy's favorite is vegetable korma. Oh, that one's a good one too. And I believe that dish is a little bit harder to master in terms of cooking, so maybe I'll give that a whirl one of these days. And of course, I like saag paneer as well. Now, you can skip this step too, and you can do a can of diced tomatoes just to cut out another step, especially, oops, things are getting a little messy in here, but that's okay. That's cooking. Okay. So basically we want to get that and all of its juices into a bowl ASAP. This is the not so fun part. Okay. Oops. Yeah, tomato juice going everywhere. It's all good though. If you cooked an Indian dish and things didn't get messy, then there's a problem. Okay, so we got our tomatoes prepped, our onions prepped. Basically now it's just the garlic and the ginger. Now, We could take this ginger here and peel it and grate it and all that fun stuff, but I like to skip some of the steps in cooking, especially on a weeknight. So I like using just buying these big jars at the Indian grocery store, and they already have ginger paste, and it smells incredible. And garlic paste as well. So it just cuts out those two steps easily. And it's pretty fresh. Now, of course, it'll be fresher if you do it the traditional way, but ain't nobody got time for that. Okay, so I'm gonna take you over to the oven area. We're just about to get started on the stovetop. And so over here, I have cumin seeds. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna start with ghee, which is clarified butter and has a lot of health benefits. And interestingly enough about ghee is because with Indian cooking, it's a lot of high heat over the stovetop. And so this has, it can withstand heat at a higher level. If compared to like butter or oils. So that's another benefit of using ghee. Did you guys know that? Because I didn't. Okay. So hopefully you guys can see. Okay. So first we're going to start the pan at medium to high heat. Okay, and we're gonna get that nice and hot, and then we're gonna add in the ghee. Let's see. So do you guys have a favorite Indian restaurant that you like to go to? For those of you that live in the California area, in LA or San Diego, always looking for really good Indian restaurants. I know we tend to go to Culver City a lot for Indian food. We don't live too far from there. And they have some really good, well, they just generally have a lot of good ethnic restaurants, but the Indian ones are really good. And I'm trying to remember the name for you, but it's not coming to the top of my head. And so, okay, so I think the pan is hot enough. So let me get it to you. So I'm just going to go ahead and add the ghee. Do you guys use ghee in your cooking? I mean, when you make Indian food, I know ghee is very popular because of all of its health benefits, and it can be pretty expensive in the grocery stores. I know Sprouts sell it at a high price, something like crazy for one jar, like $10 or $15 even. Again, I go to the Indian grocery store, and for this big jar, it's like maybe $6. Steal of a deal. Okay. All right, so our pan is heated enough, so we're gonna add in cumin seeds. Okay, so that's the first step. Now you want the ghee hot, and you want the seeds to make a sizzling sound. So you can test it by just adding a few at a time. Sizzling a little bit, so I'm gonna wait a little bit to add more. Okay, that's definitely more of a sizzle. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but let me. Then they'll pop as well. Now, once you get them in there, you do not want them to burn. I've done that many of times before. So working quickly, we're gonna add the onions. So you can see that it's just a quick 30 seconds. Oh yeah. You give that a quick stir. Now things are sizzling. Okay. So once you add the onions, you just kind of want to keep pushing them around, and you want to get them translucent. And so this process will take about a good 6 to 8 minutes. Now, my husband, Gary, he likes his onions very brown in Indian cooking. Well, actually in all cooking, whatever I'm making, he's like, brown the onions more. I'm like, well, this dish doesn't calls for browning the onions like that, you know? But it gives it like a deep, rich flavor. And actually, with Baingan Bharta, since you want that smoky flavor, to brown the onions, it adds to the that smokiness and that flavor we're trying to go for. So I definitely like to get these nice and brown. So I know I asked you guys some of your favorite Indian dishes, but do you have an Indian dish that you like to make? Let's see. Oh yeah, chicken curry. That's a pretty popular one. Oh wow, biryani. That's like an all-day task. I find that dish to be like the lasagna. There's a lot of steps involved in it, but it's very good. So that's amazing. Okay, so let me just kind of show you here. So this process will take a while, and you just kind of want to let them sit a little bit. You don't want to keep stirring because, you know, if you keep stirring, then you're not going to get like that. What's the word I'm looking for? Caramelization. So you just want to stir every few minutes or so, and in that time, yep, you can take a sip of a beverage. This is hard apple cider, which is one of my favorites during this time of year. I often like to, you know, sip some wine while cooking, some beer. It helps the therapeutic process and the flavors of the food. All right. So hopefully you can see, so the onions are slowly becoming caramelized and brown. Do you guys have a favorite beverage to sip on while you're cooking? Oh, whiskey shots. Well, that is sometimes needed in Indian cooking. Okay, so if you can see that the onions are getting nice and brown. Okay, Probably gonna go a little bit more. Now there is a fine line between browning them and burning them. So you really want to be careful in this step and watch them carefully because they can go from brown to black pretty quick. So, okay, so I think that is about ready. So now for our spicy level, we're going to add serrano peppers. Okay, and then this is when we're going to add the ginger and the garlic paste. The ginger. And give that a quick stir for just a quick, like 30 seconds to 1 minute. Let the aromas release. Now, one thing with Indian cooking, what you want to do is you want to toast the spices as well, so it helps to release the richness of the spices and release their oils to get those aromas. So that's a very important step. Now you can see how Indian food can take, one dish can take a long time. I sometimes cheat and do use the Instant Pot because that thing has been a godsend. Especially with Indian cooking. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and add the spices that are already measured. So it's basically salt, garam masala, and a little bit of ground coriander. And we do not want to forget the secret ingredient, which is the smoked paprika. So I'm just going to pour some in. Okay. And then we're just going to saute it for a quick minute. Now, if you notice the ingredients kind of sticking a little bit, you can go ahead and turn the heat down, which is what I just did, to medium instead of medium-high. And the spices can be a little strong and you may start to cough a little bit. Just be sure not to cough over the food, especially during these days of the virus. Okay, so you can see how brown it's becoming and it's smelling really good in here. So now we're gonna go ahead and add the tomatoes. Those tomatoes that we grated. And then we're just gonna let this cook. There it is. And then you want to make sure to scrape the brown bits on the bottom and get all that yummy flavor. And just saute it for like a few minutes. So I honestly prefer the pureed tomato kind of thing because I feel like it just helps to really mesh all the ingredients together that you want. And that's why it's called Baingan Bharta after all, right? Bharta is a mash of ingredients of things cooked together. So So Allison just asked, what is the difference between the yellow and the purple onion? So the purple onions tend to be a little bit stronger in taste, and the yellow ones tend to be milder and sweeter. So they like to use the red onions because it's like bolder in taste. But ironically enough, when you go to India, there's only one kind of onion, purple. So that is what we use there. Now you can see how the color is kind of going into a more like a reddish color, which is nice. I mean, with Indian food, there's so many different colors, which, you know, we eat with our eyes, and it just makes it more appetizing. Okay. Now we are just going to add, actually, I'm going to add a little bit of salt, because once you add the tomatoes, you want to be sure to add a little more salt. And then just give that a stir. Perfect. So now we just have to add the main ingredient. The eggplant, or baingan, as they say in India. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. You guys didn't see that part. So there's the eggplant. You can see it's nice, mushy texture. We're going to bharta it all together. Now you can kind of see how this is sometimes compared to baba ganoush, because baba ganoush also has that mushy texture from eggplant and the smoky flavor, but these are two different things. But you could still use this as a dip if you'd like to on the table, or serve as an, instead of serving it with like rice and naan bread and using it as a main dish, this can be a great appetizer, especially with some toasted naan bread. Okay. So you can see how it's coming along. And then sometimes you may need to mash the eggplant together. You want it to really meld together with all the flavors. And this process, once you add the eggplant, it takes just about 3 to 5 minutes. So we are actually almost done. Is there anybody else here? Oh, yep. Allie, you like tikka masala? I hear your girlfriend. That's a good one as well. Now, this is why I make 1 to 2 Indian dishes max. I can tell you, I once planned a whole Indian dinner party for friends we just met. This was years ago. And I took on the challenge to make like 4 different dishes and thought, oh yeah, like, 2 hours will be good enough amount of time. Oh my God, it took more like 4 hours, and I was nearly in tears, and Gary actually stepped in to help me with it. So Indian food is a process. But like I said, the Instapot, like I can make 3 dishes in like 10 minutes. That may not include prep time, but still, that's pretty amazing. Like saag paneer in the Instapot takes 3 minutes. This would take like 4 minutes. So I am not opposed to using that Instapot. Which, by the way, do you guys have an Instapot? Some people are for it. Some people are against it. What do you guys say? Oh, Felicia, you just got an Instapot. That's awesome. So what's your favorite thing to cook in the Instapot? Oh, ribs. I love ribs in the Instant Pot. That's another thing I like to cook in the Instant Pot as well. They just come out so tender and juicy. Okay. So oh, yep. Ron, you love the Instant Pot too. Just such a great time saver. Okay, so I'm actually just gonna turn this on low heat. It's basically done, but I need to chop up the cilantro to garnish it. So we're just gonna do that real fast. So that's just on low heat. Oh, apparently there's a sale for Instant Pot for $50 on Amazon Black Friday. That's amazing. I think ours costs like $100. So I'm excited to see what else they're gonna have on that Black Friday. Especially a good Dutch oven. I know that's Julia Stiles, one of her favorite things. Or not. Not Julia Stiles. Oh my God, I'm totally going crazy. That's an actress. Julia Child is what I meant to say. I think that apple cider was going to my head a little bit. So just dicing up the cilantro. Okay. So now it's just basically time to taste it before we add in the garnish of cilantro. Let's just try it. So obviously before serving it, you want to taste the dish you're serving. It may need more salt. And actually, if you want a little bit spicier, it's okay to add garam masala. Some people say to divide the garam masala and add half in the beginning as you cook it, or just before, and then the other half before serving it. So we'll see what it needs. It's just going to be very hot right now. That is just about there, but we definitely need more salt. So I've added probably about a teaspoon before cooking and a teaspoon during, and this is probably about the third teaspoon, just to give you an idea of how much salt you may need. And everyone has different salt levels. I'm very sensitive to it, and so is Gary actually, so I don't like too much salt. I think we don't need any more garam masala because that spice level is there. Okay, so let's try this again. And actually, I am going to add a little more garam. Actually, no, the spice level is there. I'm going to have Gary taste it real fast and see what he thinks. Let's get the verdict. Let's show you Gary. He's going to be the judge and tell me what it needs, which is sometimes what we do with Indian food. So here he goes. What's the verdict?
It tastes very good, people.
Authentic?
Yeah, could be a little more spicy, but it's good.
So yeah, so we could go ahead and add a little bit more garam masala is what I would do to make it a little spicier. And again, everybody has different spice levels. So it just really, it's a personal preference. So I am going to go ahead and add a little garam masala. That's one of the most important spices in here. So just a little bit. So probably half a teaspoon or so. And just going to mix it up. And Let's see. Let's put it in a pretty bowl. I'm just gonna pour it in. And you're going to, here, let's go over here. And then we're just gonna sprinkle a little bit of cilantro on it. And ta-da! There's our Baingan Bharta. And that is all that is to it. So I'm gonna have the recipe up on my blog, and I'll include the link below so you can have the recipe. And I'll also include the way to make it in an Instant Pot, because I do that often as well, and I think it's just a great option. So, do you guys have any questions for me? All right. Well, if nobody else does, thank you guys so much for joining. I really enjoyed having you here. And wait, but do not forget to pair your food with a beverage. So I'm really liking the hard apple cider, and I recommend Newton's Folly that is semi-dry. And just got this from Trader Joe's. It's light, pairs well with the spice and the rich deathness of Baingan Bharta. So that's it. I'm going to see you on the next savory adventure. Thank you so much, guys.